Karma. For many, the word evokes a simplified equation: do good, receive good; do bad, suffer. It's become a spiritual slogan, a pop culture mantra, a moral boomerang tossed around on social media. But Helena Blavatsky, the enigmatic co-founder of the Theosophical Society, warned us, this understanding is dangerously incomplete. To her, karma was not a reward system meted out by a moral judge. It was law, impersonal, absolute, and unrelenting. Karma wasn't about guilt or innocence, but balance. And to truly grasp this balance, she said, one must see beyond the illusions of time, personality, and even identity. Karma, according to Blavatsky, wasn't something that happens to you. It is you. A force as real and as intricate as gravity, acting not only across one lifetime but through cycles of rebirth, soul memory, and spiritual evolution. If you think you know what karma is, this journey will likely dismantle that notion, and what replaces it might change your life forever. In Blavatsky's vision, karma is not a spiritual reward system. It is a law of balance that operates on a cosmic scale, unaffected by emotion or morality. She argued that the root of human misunderstanding lies in anthropomorphizing the universe, imagining that there is a divine judge assigning rewards and punishments based on a moral checklist. But in the theosophical framework, the cosmos is governed not by whims or judgment, but by equilibrium. Karma, in this sense, functions more like gravity than like justice. It is blind, exact, and universal. According to Blavatsky, the soul is an immortal entity that incarnates repeatedly, not as a punishment, but as a necessity for learning and evolution. Each thought, each feeling, each action becomes a thread in a vast energetic tapestry that must be balanced over countless lifetimes. This means that your current experiences, your joys, your traumas, your very personality, are not accidents, nor are they strictly consequences of this life. They are karmic reverberations, echoes of choices made long before your current body was born. And perhaps most radically, she claimed, many of these causes remain unconscious, buried in the deep memory of the soul, shaping destiny in ways the conscious mind can scarcely imagine. This is why suffering often seems unjust from a surface perspective. We simply do not remember the original motion that created the current ripple. And yet, on a higher plane, it is all precise. Every experience has its root. Nothing is random. For Blavatsky, understanding this wasn't about assigning blame. It was about awakening responsibility. The soul is both the architect and the witness of its fate, and karma is the blueprint. If karma is the blueprint, then reincarnation is the construction site. Helena Blavatsky emphasized that the soul's journey could not be confined to a single lifetime. She taught that each human being is not a mere one-time visitor in the physical world, but a recurring traveler, returning again and again to learn, to balance, to evolve. And karma is not just carried, it is integrated, embedded within the essence of the self, shaping everything from our deepest inclinations to the circumstances of our birth. What we call personality is, in truth, a carefully orchestrated composition of tendencies developed over centuries, both light and shadow. Blavatsky explained that people often inherit not just genetic traits, but karmic conditions, latent talents, persistent challenges, inexplicable fears, and even karmic debts connected to other souls. This is why some are born into luxury, and others into hardship, some with innate gifts and others with great burdens. But here's the profound shift she demanded. Do not see these differences as injustice. See them as instruction. Every experience is tailored for evolution, and karma is the invisible tailor. What you suffer may be the echo of harm you once caused. What you overcome may unlock a virtue you once lacked. The soul, in this view, is not being punished. It is being educated by the only teacher that never lies: consequence. Blavatsky wrote that the soul forgets its past lives not as a flaw of nature, but as a mercy. If we remembered every pain we had suffered, and worse, every pain we had caused, it would be unbearable. The forgetting allows us to focus, but the law remains. The wheel turns, and every act, every thought, sets a new spoke into motion. You may not recall the seed, but you are living the fruit. And yet, even this vast cycle of individual karma is only part of the equation. Blavatsky warned that the law of karma does not apply solely to individuals. It extends to families, communities, nations, and even entire civilizations. This means that the karma we experience is not always personal. It can be collective. Wars, natural disasters, revolutions, and periods of societal collapse are not, in her view, arbitrary acts of fate. They are karmic rebalances, echoes of collective actions, ideologies, or spiritual neglect. A nation that sows violence may, generations later, reap conflict. A culture that worships materialism may awaken one day to spiritual desolation. And individuals born into these scenarios, she taught, may not be innocent victims nor deliberate perpetrators, but souls drawn magnetically to conditions that match their own karmic resonance. Perhaps in another life, they helped shape the very energies they now endure. In this sense, karma acts not just vertically across lifetimes, but horizontally across space and community. It binds us not only to our own actions, but to the spiritual atmosphere we contribute to. Blavatsky's message here is both sobering and empowering. We are not isolated beings floating through random experiences. We are part of a complex, interwoven spiritual ecosystem. When we raise ourselves, we elevate the collective. When we act with cruelty or indifference, that energy amplifies, not just for us, but for all. And when suffering falls upon a generation or a people, the question is not, why is this happening to me? But rather, what long-forgotten imbalance is being brought to light? Blavatsky insisted. Karma is not punishment, it is memory in motion. And until we learn to see with the eye of the soul, we will mistake its corrections for chaos. But what happens when we resist karma? What if in the face of suffering we shut down, retaliate, or escape into denial? Blavatsky foresaw this reaction as a dangerous trap, the cycle of karmic repetition. According to her, when we refuse to recognize or work through karmic consequences, we do not erase them, we delay them. The energy remains unresolved, often growing in intensity, awaiting another incarnation, another moment when the soul is ready, or forced, to confront it. This is the origin of what some might call fated suffering, those recurring patterns in life that seem to return with uncanny precision. Toxic relationships, inexplicable losses, cycles of addiction, or perpetual fear. These are not just bad luck or psychological quirks. In Blavatsky's teachings, they are karmic loops, spiritual lessons unlearned. But here's the vital insight she offered. Karma is not cruel. It is patient. It will wait 10 lifetimes if it must. The soul, she believed, is never punished for failing, only for refusing to try. And every opportunity, even the most painful, is an invitation to liberation. The moment we confront a fear with courage, forgive where we once hated, take responsibility instead of blaming, we shift the energy. The karmic thread begins to unravel. Not magically, not instantly, but decisively. Blavatsky taught that karma bends to consciousness. The more awake you are, the more power you have to transform it. This is why spiritual work, meditation, self-reflection, service, compassion, is not just noble. It is strategic. It realigns the soul's trajectory. You are not trapped in your karma, but you are responsible for it. And once you accept that, a new path begins to emerge, one of mastery, not submission. Blavatsky's teachings on karma also dismantled the illusion of coincidence. In her view, nothing, absolutely nothing, occurs without cause. That chance encounter, that inexplicable opportunity, that devastating loss, each event is tethered to a chain of spiritual causality. She insisted that the universe is not random. It is karmically precise. This doesn't mean that everything is predetermined, but rather that everything is interrelated. A single decision made in anger or love can ripple through time, altering the course of future lives. And here lies a truth both empowering and terrifying. We are constantly writing our destiny, word by word, thought by thought. Even our inner life, what we think, feel, and intend, contributes to our karmic field. This is why Blavatsky urged spiritual vigilance. It wasn't enough to perform good deeds if our motives were poisoned. She believed the universe responds to vibration, not appearances. A selfish act cloaked in virtue still leaves a mark. A small, sincere gesture of compassion can shift a lifetime. What mattered was consciousness, not just what you did, but who you were when you did it. This level of karmic accountability is uncomfortable because it strips away excuses. It invites radical self-honesty. You cannot blame the gods, the stars, or even your past lives indefinitely. Eventually, you must face the mirror. But Blavatsky also taught that this mirror is sacred. It is the gateway to transformation. To know that your life is not random, that every joy and sorrow has meaning. This, she said, is not a burden. It is a call to power. The more deeply you understand karma, the more clearly you see the architecture of your soul. And then, you begin to build with intention, not habit. In the deeper layers of Blavatsky's teachings, karma was not just a law. It was a sacred opportunity for evolution. She viewed the soul's journey through countless incarnations not as a prison sentence, but as a cosmic curriculum. Each lifetime is a classroom. Each experience, no matter how painful, is a lesson crafted by the very consciousness that must master it. And the measure of success is not wealth, fame, or even happiness. It is awakening. Awakening to who you really are. Awakening to the interconnectedness of all beings. Awakening to the sacredness of suffering and the brilliance hidden in trials. Karma, in this view, becomes the soul's sculptor. It chisels away the false self, the ego, the illusions, the attachments, until what remains is the eternal being, luminous, compassionate, free. But this process isn't passive. Blavatsky made it clear that spiritual development requires effort, intention, and often sacrifice. The soul must choose to evolve. It must meet its karma consciously, not as a victim but as a participant. She spoke of the path of initiation, where individuals begin to accelerate their spiritual progress by facing karma head-on, rather than waiting lifetimes for gradual correction. Such beings may endure great suffering, but they do so with understanding. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What must I learn?" For Blavatsky, this shift in perception is the beginning of real freedom. Karma ceases to be a chain and becomes a compass. It stops feeling like fate and starts guiding you home. The soul, once it sees the hidden hand of karma in every event, no longer fears life, it reveres it. And in that reverence, a new kind of life begins. Yet for all her intricate explanations and metaphysical clarity, Blavatsky was deeply aware of how easily the concept of karma could be misused, especially as a tool for judgment or spiritual arrogance. She warned that those who claimed to see others' karma, or who interpreted suffering as proof of moral failure, were themselves trapped in delusion. According to her, the law of karma is subtle, multidimensional, and largely inaccessible to ordinary perception. No one can truly know the karmic path of another soul, because the threads extend across lifetimes, into realms beyond this material world. To assume you understand another's suffering is, in her words, an act of spiritual ignorance. Even the most enlightened souls may pass through darkness, not as a result of sin, but as a means of service or initiation. Blavatsky urged humility in the face of karma. The moment we use it to justify indifference or superiority, we distort its purpose. True understanding of karma breeds compassion. It softens judgment and awakens a sense of unity. You begin to see every person, not as a separate entity, but as a fellow traveler in the vast school of life, each one carrying invisible burdens, learning invisible lessons. And in this light, even injustice takes on a different meaning. It doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It becomes a mirror, a teacher, a karmic consequence that invites healing. Blavatsky believed that recognizing this, truly living from this awareness, was one of the greatest steps towards spiritual maturity. Because when you stop asking who's to blame and start asking how you can serve, you begin to align not just with karma, but with the divine intelligence behind it. At the heart of Blavatsky's vision was the insistence that karma was inseparable from another cosmic law, reincarnation. These two principles, she taught, were like twin flames. One could not function without the other. And understanding this pairing is key to grasping the full depth of her warning. Karma is not what you think, because life itself is not what you think. You are not this body. You are not this name, this story, this moment. You are an immortal consciousness, undergoing a vast process of refinement through form. Each life is a scene in a larger play, and karma is the logic behind the plot. The pains you endure now may be the healing of wounds inflicted centuries ago. The love you feel for someone you just met may echo a bond once shared on distant shores in forgotten times. And the passions, talents, or fears that seem to arise without explanation are often residues of who you once were. Blavatsky revealed that in between lives, the soul passes through subtle states of awareness, not just resting, but reviewing, understanding, preparing. In those interludes, karma is not just experienced, it is studied. The soul sees clearly the impact of its actions. It is not judged by any deity. It judges itself with absolute honesty, and from that awareness the next incarnation is shaped, not as punishment, but as opportunity. The soul chooses the conditions that will best allow it to grow, even if that means hardship, especially if that means hardship, because the soul, unlike the personality, does not seek comfort. It seeks liberation, and karma, as Blavatsky saw it, is the architect of that liberation, one incarnation at a time. One of the most misunderstood aspects of karma, and one that Blavatsky emphasized with great urgency, is the idea of karma as fate. Many people, upon learning about the law of karma, fall into a kind of spiritual fatalism. It's just my karma, they say, as if life is a script already written, unchangeable, predetermined. But Blavatsky warned that this attitude was a trap. Karma is not a prison, it is a field, and every field offers you space to plant something new. While you cannot erase the seeds already sown, you can choose how you respond to their fruits, and more importantly, you can choose what you will sow next. This, she insisted, is where human free will and karmic law dance together. Yes, certain events may be destined, the result of ancient causes set in motion long ago. But within those events, your response is your freedom. Your attitude is your power. Your present action is the seed of future destiny. And here lies a powerful truth. Consciousness accelerates karmic evolution. The more aware you are, the more gracefully you pass through karmic trials. The more you choose love over fear, truth over denial, service over self-interest, the more quickly the wheel of suffering slows. Blavatsky even suggested that a soul could burn up vast stores of karma through conscious living, not by escaping life, but by engaging it fully, with the eyes of the soul open. This is why true spiritual practice isn't about retreating from the world. It's about showing up, with integrity, with presence, with compassion. Karma may bring the test, but your consciousness writes the answer. And in every moment you are free to change the narrative. But how does one begin to consciously transform karma? According to Blavatsky, the process does not start with rituals or ceremonies. It begins with awareness. The first step is observation, to witness your own life not as a sequence of random events, but as a mirror. Every frustration, every joy, every pattern that keeps repeating is a reflection of something within, and it is asking to be seen. Blavatsky often spoke of the power of introspection and self-study. In her view, the most sacred temple is the inner self, and meditation is not escape, it is confrontation. You begin to listen to the silent forces within you, the echoes of old decisions, And slowly, you start to recognize your karmic signature. It might show up in the people you attract, the habits you can't break, the things that inexplicably move or disturb you. And when you start to name these patterns without fear, you begin to reclaim your energy. Then comes the harder part, purification. This doesn't mean becoming perfect. Blavatsky never advocated moral puritanism. Instead, it means aligning thought, word, and action with the higher self, acting with integrity, speaking truthfully, refusing to harm even when it's easier, choosing compassion even when revenge feels justified. She called these choices white magic because they create new karmic pathways, ones that break the cycle of suffering instead of reinforcing it. And with each conscious choice, you reclaim a piece of your spiritual sovereignty. You stop being a passive subject of karma and become its master, not by controlling the law, but by harmonizing with it. Like a musician who no longer fights the rhythm, but learns to play in tune with the cosmic symphony. As the soul deepens in awareness, a profound shift begins to occur. Karma is no longer perceived as something outside the self, but as an expression of the self. Blavatsky insisted that the entire universe is, in essence, a reflection of consciousness in motion. What we experience is not simply happening to us, it is happening through us. And this is where karma evolves from a concept into a mystical truth. The soul begins to see how every relationship, every hardship, every synchronicity is a dialogue with the deeper self, the part of us that spans lifetimes and realms. In this state, karma is no longer feared or resisted. It becomes guidance. It becomes the invisible hand that molds the soul like a master sculptor shaping stone. Blavatsky referred to this as walking the path. It's not a path you find, it's a path you become. And on this path, something unexpected occurs: grace. When a soul surrenders its resistance and opens fully to the karmic law, not as a punishment, but as a teacher, then a higher force begins to move. Some call it divine will, others call it dharma, but in Theosophy, it is the soul's awakening to its true purpose. At this point, karma doesn't vanish, but it transforms. Old debts dissolve more swiftly. Insight replaces confusion, and even suffering when it arises is held with reverence. Because the soul now sees what the personality never could, that all pain has a purpose, and all loss contains light. Blavatsky believed this shift was the beginning of real freedom. Not freedom from karma, but freedom within karma. A state where the soul dances with the very forces that once bound it, and in doing so, transcends them. So what then was Blavatsky truly warning us about when she said karma is not what we think? She was warning against the dangerous comfort of oversimplification, against turning a sacred law into superstition, against using karma as a tool to judge others or justify injustice. Most of all, she was calling us to wake up, to realize that karma is not about control, but about consciousness. It is not here to punish or reward. It is here to teach. And if we listen closely, if we begin to treat every moment as meaningful, every encounter as sacred, and every emotion as a messenger, then karma becomes what it was always meant to be, the mirror that shows us who we are and who we can become. Blavatsky's teachings do not ask us to fear karma. They ask us to respect it, to live in harmony with it, to see it not as a cosmic judge, but as a cosmic invitation, to evolve, to awaken, to return to the source of all things as wiser, more compassionate, more luminous beings. You are not here by mistake. What you face now is not without meaning. Your life, your lessons, your loves and losses, they are all threads in the vast tapestry of your soul's unfolding. And if you choose from this moment forward to live with intention, to act with clarity, to seek truth even in pain, then karma will no longer feel like chains. It will become wings. Because in the end, karma is not just what binds us to the world, it is what binds us to eternity. If this message stirred something in you, if it opened your heart or shifted your understanding, share it in the comments. Write, "I walk my path with awareness. and let's honor this journey together. Thank you for being here. Until next time.